Hello and welcome back. In this lecture, we're going to learn about Microsoft Azure App Services. So when we have a look on our traditional app services, when we say traditional, let's say you have your environment like this and where you might be working with a kind of a virtual machine or physical server with hosted of IaaS or maybe Tomcat or Apache or any other web applications. So what you used to do is you used to develop your code and you used to upload within this virtual machine. And from outside, you can map your custom domain to this web server so that your applications used to work. That's not the end. You need to even look for high availability and high performance side. What you're going to do is you are going to spin up some of the NLBs or multiple host machines with the same code in order to serve a greater performance for your end users. Also, you used to enable the SSL so that users can access if any of the server down. Also, they would be getting high availability with the help of load balancer, or maybe some other server would actually intelligent way it's going to give the service for end users. Either they are from on premises or maybe from outside. It is actually secured. This is how your web applications used to work. Now let's have a look on Microsoft Azure point of view of how the cloud hosted web applications will work. The first and foremost, the major difference between the traditional and the cloud is in the traditional, you used to manage everything. That's very similar to your infrastructure as a service model, right? But here with the cloud, web apps are completely PaaS model. That's a platform as a service model. So you are not going to manage anything here about your virtual machines, or you cannot even do the RDP to these virtual machines, or you cannot do any configurations on this virtual machine. Instead, the virtual machines are fully built in with your app service plan. In a minute or so, we're going to learn about the app service plans, which will actually give you the more capabilities of auto scaling, SSL, and custom domain, and automated patching of these virtual machines, and they're managing in the back end. Okay, it would be taken care by Microsoft because it's a platform as a service model, which you're going to use as the front end, and you simply use, or you simply give the code or upload the code and it will compile and it will be ready for the end users. And for the high availability purpose, like we talked in virtual machines lectures about the auto scaling, similar thing you can scale up so that it will be available as a web application for end users with a great high performance. So let's have a look on how this actually works and what are the other advantages that we have when we go with Azure App Service model. So when it comes to the advantages or the key features, the infrastructure management, when we talk about the infrastructure management, earlier we said about within the traditional, you used to manage the patching, you used to update the Windows and everything. With the cloud, you don't need to do anything because it is a PaaS service. It's fully managed in terms of the infrastructure management was taken care by Microsoft, like patching, maintaining, and underlining infrastructure issues. All that was taken care by Microsoft. And coming back to the high availability, when we talk about the high availability, we have the built-in support for high availability for Azure Web Apps which are running on a multiple nodes. And also you have the auto scaling options that would actually gives the option for you to automatically scale that web application load so that you have that customers meeting their demand of that web applications loading. And also it's going to be a streamlined development. When we say streamlined development, you can actually integrate the development and troubleshooting tools in order to streamline your complete development. Like even the continuous integration and continuous development also fully integrated with the staging slots. In a minute, we are going to talk about the staging slots. A staging slots very similar like you are currently in a development and then you are moving to production. That's nothing but a slot mechanism within the web applications. So you are going to use that kind of staging slots and these all are part of your web application service plans, that type of the service plan that you're going to use. So we didn't talk about the service plan at this point of time, and in the upcoming lectures we're going to deep dive about almost all the web application features, and we are gonna do with the demos. But this lecture is going to be more about the introduction about the web apps and their key components that are used, so that you get some idea, and then we would build on this foundation to learn more about the web applications. And also Azure integration. When we talk about the Azure integration, it actually can be integrated with any kind of Azure resources like storage services, networking, and you can grant the required permissions with the VNets and Azure AD authentication, and all that integration can be done with the help of Azure resources. And let's also understand that these web apps are not just the one kind of app languages. It supports multiple languages and its frameworks, like when we talk about ASP.NET or ASP.NET Core, or Java, Ruby, Node.js, or PHP, or Python. You can run even the PowerShell and other scripts to execute in the backend as a services, as a cron jobs also. And when we talk about the managed production environments, app services automatically patches, as we talked about. Infrastructure management, very similar. It also manages your OS level of language frameworks also. So you just have to focus on your code. You don't need to worry about the infrastructure. And when we look at the containerization or Docker, this is something new from the last 4-5 years, where most of the things are coming into the Dockerization of your application. So earlier we used to work on the virtual machine level. Now we are actually Dockerizing everything in terms of the containerization. So your apps will be Dockerized, so that you can host that custom Windows or Linux-based applications can be run into that container, and even you can run multi-container apps also with the Docker Compose, and you can migrate your Docker skills directly to app services plans. And also when we talk about the DevOps optimization, so this is the one other important feature that we talked about, the CI and CD, continuous integration and development for the continuous. So Azure offers app services offers basically DevOps and GitHub or Bitbucket or Docker Hub, or even the Azure Container Registry. So all these are available in terms of the container features, including for the continuous integration and continuous development features with the DevOps optimization. So you are actually focusing on your applications in order to develop those applications instead of worrying about the infrastructure. And also you can scale globally. When we talk about the globally scaling, definitely you can actually go for automatic or manual scaling with your applications, with the configuration of your SLAs promised and high availability, like scale up or scale down features automatically can be configured based on your requirements or schedules. And also connections to the SaaS. When we talk about the connections to the SaaS and on-premises data, you can choose from more than 50 connections for your enterprise systems, such as SAP, or SaaS services such as Salesforce, or internet services such as Facebook, and other authentication SaaS platforms that can be fully integrated in terms of hybrid connections or hybrid virtual networks, so that your applications can work with these hybrid authentication models, or maybe connectivity point of view for the different networks. So that is possible in terms of connecting SaaS platforms also. So you can integrate your applications with other SaaS platforms, not just the SaaS, also from your on-premises networks and on-premises apps and data also. And coming back to the security compliance, definitely that's a major thing for any of the company when we look at the compliance in terms of ISO or SOC or PCI compliant. So app services are built in for ISO, SOC, and PCI compliant, and you can authenticate users using Azure Active Directory or Google, Facebook, as we talked, other social platforms like Twitter, Microsoft account, and also you can create IP-based restrictions, and you can manage your service identities also. So when we look at the application templates, so we can choose a variety of different extensive list of application templates directly from the Microsoft Azure Marketplace. Like WordPress, you can go and you can configure your WordPress sites within Azure App Services, or Joomla, or Drupal. A lot of other content management solutions also available. So it's not just a content management solutions. When you go to the marketplace, you have many things that are relevant to the web apps. So you can go ahead and you can simply purchase so that it's readily available from those vendors. And coming back to the Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code integration, so you have a dedicated tools with Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code streamline the work for creating and deploying and debugging of your applications and their code. And also it supports API and mobile features when we talk about that. Cause support for RESTful API scenarios and simplifies mobile apps scenarios by enabling authenticating offline data sync, and you can push the notifications and all that are available. Whereas within the on-premises, these things are very difficult, but with the push or notifications, all that, which is very easily possible now with the help of API integrations, and it's fully compatible. When we talk about the app services or web apps, it can be API apps or mobile apps or web applications. So we're talking about all of these things. And also you can go for the serverless code, which is a new thing within the web apps now. So you can run your code snippets or scripts on demand without having to explicitly provisioning or managed infrastructure. So you only pay for your compute time that your code actually uses. So this is a great feature, and you can use like Azure Functions for this as an example, so that it can work with a combination of Azure Functions and Logic Apps. You get the more advantages with the web apps. And we talked about the app services that can be hosted web apps natively on a Linux supported application stacks also. And now when we talk about all these features, these are not everything is free. Definitely it would be priced. It would be categorized based on the computing environment. So let's talk about what is that. So when we talk about any of the application that's going to run on a app service plan. So this is a service plan, and based on this service plan that you choose, you're going to build. And at the same time, you're going to actually get that power of web applications that we talked earlier. So here, so the first point would be so when you take any of the web application, or when you try to onboard any of the web application or app services, you have to go and use something called app service plan. And this plan will be depends on a computing based. So let's say the computing can be a shared computing, or maybe a dedicated computing, or it's fully isolated for you. So on these three parameters, it's actually charged, or it's going to be give you a certain performance that we talked about it. So now when we look at the high level of this shared computing, so you have this URL which talks about a complete pricing. In a minute we will go there and we will have a look on it, but let's try to understand about the shared computing. So you have free as well as the shared. Yes, Microsoft Azure web apps are free, but they are having a limited capabilities and limited features that you can use it. And we're going to have a look on it with a comparison in the next slide like this. But just try to understand here, shared computing is nothing but here. If you see here, computing power is a shade for free services, and also for the shade services, it's actually a shade. That means you are getting actually, you can use Azure web app services for free if you are using maybe just the 10 applications and 1 GB disk space, and there's no proper given, auto scaling, custom domain, and maximum instances, all that. So it's just a free for you forever. It's a free. And coming back to the shade, yes, this is used for the dev and test environments. With 100 web applications can be used with 1 GB disk space, and custom domains are supported, but you're going to charge actually per hour basis 0.014 cents. It's going to be charged. And when we talk about the basic, standard, premium, isolated, as you just move it, it's going to be dedicated. You see here, from the basic to premium, it's going to be dedicated computing for you. And within this dedicated environment, you have unlimited web applications can be hosted, and 10 GB of that's a limitation, and maximum instances can run up to 3. And custom domains are supported, hybrid connectivity is supported, but you cannot connect your virtual networks, you cannot use private endpoints. So the private endpoints will be used for routing your data with a Microsoft backbone network. We talked about these things in the networking section. You can check out that lecture. And coming back to the standard, yes, with the standard you have up to 10 instances can be run with a 50 GB, and you have auto scaling. So when we talk about the auto scaling, like we have seen within the virtual machines auto scaling, similar functionality based on the CPU power or based on the workload, it can scale up or scale down based on that. So you have these options. Again, these things are again customized. The way you look at here is actually taken from the pricing of the sheet. So you just go to this URL, you get this. But when we go to the Microsoft Azure portal, it doesn't look like this. It will be something like these. So you might have to choose either dev, test, or production, or isolated. And in the production also, if you see here, we talked about the production workloads, but here within this production you have S1, P1, P2, P3, and different again versions of the virtualization of your VMs, like a V2, V3, and V3, V4, all that you have with a higher RAM and greater performance, along with the auto scaling number of instances. So it all depends on that, but we are actually focusing in this lecture at this point of time only on a computing. So the compute, whether you want a shared or you want a dedicated, if it is dedicated, you have an option for basic, standard, and premium. Premium is the highest performance, but the pricing anyway you are going to get 0.20 cents per hour basis. And isolated, it's double the price of 4.14 cents. It's going to be charged with a 1 TB of the disk space, and you can up to scale up to 100 maximum auto scale or 100 instances. You can go for it. So let's jump into other way how it looks like when we look at from Microsoft Azure portal. So from the Azure portal, it looks like these, but it also gives other details of each plan. In a minute we are going to have a look on it, but before we jump into that, let's go to this URL and have a look on it about these, and also about these pricing also will be listed within this pricing calculator, which is available from Microsoft Azure. When I open this URL, I have an option to choose Windows or Linux. So that's the first thing which I have to choose, because web apps will give you the base operating system as Windows or Linux. You have the two options. So based on that, pricing will differ. That's why here it is actually showing as a Windows, since I have used as Linux or Windows. So if it is a Linux, so this page will change to Linux. So I'm actually going to stick with Windows now. And based on the region and the dollars of your currency, or month based or per hour based, you can actually calculate it. Now this is what the slide which I have taken actually and shown to you here within this slide here, right? And now we're going to talk about here more about these plans. As you scroll down a little bit, you are actually getting free and shared with the different plans. You see here we talked about the free and shade, but here when it comes, it is actually talking about F1, which is a free, and D1 as a shade. So this is the plan which is available when you go to Azure portal. So let me go and show you here something within the Azure portal when we try to create a app service plan. If you remember, we are talking about the app service plan because every application that is that must be associated with some kind of app service plan, and we are talking about the app service plan. So when we try to create from a web app, so you can choose here whether it is a Windows or Linux as the operating system, and then you can choose your run stack of different environments like different languages, Ruby, Python, or Node.js, or .NET, or .NET Core, Java, all that. That's a type of your application which is going to be used as a runtime stack. And along with that, you have to create app service plan. So this is the plan that you need to create. So when I try to create here SQL and the size, if I try to change here, I get an option saying that you can pick up different type of service plans that will be visible here. So I can choose here F1. So what happens is if I choose F1, it's actually giving me a very detailed information. So here if you look at the memory is runs, and also the storage is completely 1 GB of the storage. So if I just scroll to higher plan, let's say production, so I have different options like S1 and P1 and P2, V2, and every plan has a different configuration. If you look at here S1 to P1 V2 comparison, you have an option where you can actually go ahead and use the S1, which is talking about custom domain support. It can auto-scale up to 10 instances and 5 staging slots that are available, like you develop, Dev 1, Dev 2, maybe production or UAT, or like that. Staging slots can be available, so you can simply switch from one staging slot to another staging slot. And you also have the 10 backups in a day, and you can use your traffic manager. We talked about the traffic manager in the networking section. You can check out that also, which would route the traffic between multiple instances of your web application. And you have all these powers. So if I just choose another option, P1 V2, here it actually gives you up to 20 instances you can scale. Earlier we have only 10 instances, now you can go for 20. So these are the differences that comes into the picture when we talk about the app services, and based on that the pricing would differ. So if I just go here and I can choose here standard services plan S1, S2, S3, this is going to charge anywhere from $20 to $73 per month. So that's what it's going to charge, and it's going to show you how much it's going to charge and how much RAM you're going to get it as a dedicated service. So all that pricing is available here, and you can have a look on this pricing page when you are actually designing any of the web apps. And I hope this small demonstration is useful for you. We will jump into the creation part in the next slide or next video, so that we will come to know how to create a web application along with the app service plan. Thank you for watching this. We'll catch you in the next lecture.